Hey, I'm Shelly,
And I'm Angela,
and this is Real Talk Dating Exposed.
where we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of dating in your 40s.
If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe and like us below.
And if you're listening to us on audio, please subscribe as well.
Now let's get into it. Okay, so I think one of the first things we always do when we start dating someone is go to their social media.
Yeah.
I mean, how soon in do you do that?
Right away.
Right?
Once I get their Instagram handle, I want to look at, well, of course, their post. But I almost immediately go to who are they following and are they like interacting with the accounts, right? Also look at like, do we have mutual friends? Like that's a big one. But what I'm looking for when it comes to who they're following is it like more motivational? Is it like half naked OnlyFans girls? And are they like interacting with that kind of stuff?
Is that like deal breaker?
It's definitely a huge red flag.
For sure.
And more importantly, just because of like my experience with my exes in regards to social media.
Yeah.
A lot of just like infidelity. And I think it also just gives you like a little bit of a glimpse and insight into their brain, right?
For sure. Well, I think when we come from a space where you and I have both been in relationships where we were like cheated on via social. Mm-hmm. So I get in that moment, it's not like they're physically, you don't know. I mean, granted, I can assume that the physical things were happening too, but to see emotional connections happening, and I wouldn't even say connections in a lot of them, it was, I mean, sexual things, pictures exchanged.
Yeah.
It totally taints, right? Like, I think it makes me and you very cognizant of who our people are following, even potential dating partners, like who their people are that they're following.
Right.
And I had a recent instance, right, where someone was, that I was potentially talking to. So I went to go see who his Instagram followers were or who he was following, but also sometimes who's following him. Only to see that I was like, wow, this is bizarre. Like, there's a lot of chicks that are on OnlyFans, and nothing against you OnlyFans chicks, but like, do you know these girls? And then why are you constantly liking all their photos? So then it makes me think, like, is this something you do on the side? Like, you can go down this rabbit hole, but to me, that's like a huge red flag.
Because the thought is, if you like that, then we're not in alignment. The thought is, if you like that, then like, what are you doing with your, like, where does your mind go specifically when you see that they're not only following, but also like engaging in that content?
I just don't, maybe I've never understood like what a man gets from following hot chicks and liking their photos when you're one of thousands. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I don't get that. And I don't do it. So like, there's no hot guy accounts that I follow that I'm like, let me go scroll and like be a fan, but I don't even want to, I guess I just don't fangirl over people like that.
Yeah.
But also I don't care about those people in my feed. Like, unless it's like business or for a podcast or family or close friends, like, or motivational things or reels that, that end up popping up in your like, from your usage, like, know, ones that could be of relevance to what you're looking at. It's never like half naked dudes where you're seeing their package and all these things. So I guess my mindset is like, what are men thinking when that's like you're taking time out of your day? Mind you, we all have like X amount of hours in the day and you're spending yours liking random chicks' photos. Like, I fucking hate that.
And I think I've been in my last marriage, like my ex would like other, like our mutual friends post, but like wouldn't like my shit.
Yeah.
So it was like, so I think there's also like, for me.
Do you feel like that's a manipulation thing though? Like, that's a tool to like get under your skin? Or was he subconsciously doing it? Because you brought it up to him that it bothered you.
Yeah, I know. I think for him, I mean, it was a lot, but I think for him, like, I created insecurity in him because he wasn't confident in who he was. And so then what he chose to do is then seek attention elsewhere, externally.
With people that you know.
With people that you don't know or that you know.
Yeah.
I think that there's just a lot that goes into social media. But I think we're missing also the part that like men are visual humans. And also I think maybe us as women are tying this, not to say that some men can be a little bit more simple than us and not in a condescending way, but it's like, I could see men being like, well, at least this is what I've been told by my exes, is like, it's just a picture. Like, it's just a picture. It doesn't mean anything. I was just like mindlessly scrolling and I happened to like it. It doesn't, there's no no
Meaning what?
substance
Do you
behind
feel
it.
like, because I've
But
heard that
don't-
multiple times too.
I don't know that I can relate to that, because if I like something, it's because I genuinely have taken the time to like read it, or I like supporting that person, or
But do we feel like that's an excuse that men use to get out of doing shit that they shouldn't be doing?
maybe. But I
Because
also
I've
think
heard that
I also
exact
think
thing multiple times. I'm just not thinking, I'm scrolling and I'm liking. No one's mindlessly like you are, but you're still intentionally putting action into showing attention to a space that like you shouldn't be showing attention to.
right, especially if you're in a relationship, right? Like, because if we flip the coin, I wouldn't be liking or consuming content of half naked men when I'm with someone, or even single. Like,
We just don't do that single.
yeah,
So I think it's
yeah.
harder for us to understand. And I
Right.
give more grace to dudes that are single that we're potentially dating
Mm-hmm.
because they're not with us, right? But there has been relationships or people that I've dated where that was their tone. We start dating, and then I had to have a conversation around
Well,
that.
that was going to be my next question, is like, okay, so you meet someone, you look at their socials. Okay, you got a couple like red flags here. At what point are you bringing that up, and what does that conversation sound like?
I feel like it does not come up until I feel like we decide that we're going to be in a relationship, unless it's icking me that much where I'm like, or there's like so another thing, and people could think I'm nuts. So like, I'm not, I'm a Scorpio and I'm from Jersey. So like, we're just intense, and we're detectives, right? Like, we want to know what is going on. So I will, if I'm dating someone, sorry guys out there that potentially can be in my future, but I will see who you follow. And then if you continue to follow more accounts of similar nature after we start dating, I don't love that.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'll observe it, and nothing will be said unless and until we get to a space where I'm like, okay, this is going to be my person. And then I will gladly convey the fact that I think it's inappropriate if you're in a relationship with someone to be giving attention to those avenues and not stemming from an insecure place. It's a respect thing for me. And if men, which I've heard often also, is like, well, I just don't think about it. Well, now I'm making you think about it. So what are you going to do with that? You know what I mean? And there's been plenty of dudes that just keep on keeping on, and I can't do it.
Well, I think that kind of goes back to like, do we just observe and let them be who they are? And if that's part of who they are, which clearly they're showing us that it is, then maybe we're just not even in alignment. Because this is my thought, is like, if that's ultimately what they like to do, which they're showing us that it is, now they're just going to be consuming it but not liking it, so we can't see it. And maybe I'm just used to being with men who are like conniving and
like
manipulative and sneaky, but that's where my mind goes. It's like, if that's ultimately what they want to do, I'm not in the space of trying to change someone. Let them be who they are. And if that's the kind of shit that you like to consume, then like, we're looking for two totally different things. And yeah, I don't know, but maybe that's where you and I are different. Because I don't even want to have a conversation around it, because once I see
so
that,
it would be a deal breaker for you then if you saw that. Like, I feel like you've dated guys where maybe that came up. Well, I don't know. I know past relationships, it's been a thing. But if you have a conversation around it and you're bringing awareness to it, maybe they aren't aware that it's something that bothered you. So to you, you feel more from the stance of like, I'm just going to let them be them and see if that aligns with me? Or do you dialogue around it because that's communicating your wants and needs, and maybe in some capacity they're not understanding that that's even a thing to us women, because a lot of men are just simple creatures? Like, if they came and was like, hey, I totally get that, like, it's inappropriate, I won't do that anymore.
I mean, I don't know. I've never been in the situation where like I like a guy, and as of lately at least, and he's also consuming that content. But I feel like I'd be more in the space of like, you do you, let me observe you. And I mean, I guess I'd be, let's say everything is 100%, like everything else is checking the boxes. Yeah, I would have the conversation around it, but I'm also feeling like he's going to do it anyways.
Yeah. But to me, in a weird way, like, all of us can look at things, but I feel like the minute you're liking it, then you're giving attention to it in a different way. Like, I have friends, I will not name names, from back east that have been together for like a couple that have been together forever. And like, everyone's in the fitness space, right? They're married, they have a kid. He likes every hot chick's, like any figure chick I know, he is liking all of their photos. Like, his wife just had a baby, and you are still like, and sometimes even with like a fire emoji. And then I feel like you're just taking shit to a next level when you're married.
Yeah.
Like commenting on it. But like, literally I could look at any photo in my feed of like anyone fitness related, and I could see that name because it shows like who, if they're friends with you and if they like it.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh no, she must see that happens. Like, I would never be able to tolerate that. You don't know all these chicks?
Yeah. I mean, I think there is that, I mean, there's the digital footprint, right? That we're all leaving when we like things. And so there is a respect thing that comes across. Like to your point, if I am following one of my friends or a client or someone that I know that's married and I see that they're liking, as a woman, I'm very hyper aware of men that like are interactive with my stuff.
Yeah.
They know who they are.
Yes.
I know who you are. And so.
And we know your marital status.
Yes. And so.
Which I don't think if they're married doesn't mean they shouldn't be liking your things. But like if you're friends with them.
But you're like, if you're overly eager and you're like the first one to respond, or like you're always in my DMs with like heart eyes, like
No.
I know that. And so I guess being on the other side of that and being a woman who's like watching my husband do those things, I just have a different feeling around it.
Yeah.
You know?
So you just don't want to tolerate it.
No.
I mean, what's your thoughts around anyone with no social? So I feel like we've gone and looked before.
Yeah.
To be like, all right, let's find this guy, get a vibe for like who they like, what they do, what they're putting out there. And there's times where I'm like, they're MIA. They're MIA on social. So how do you feel around that?
I kind of like it.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the only reason why I'm on social the way that I am is for our business. And the
podcast.
And the podcast, yes. And so the thought of not being on social sounds amazing to me.
Do you ever think that it signals a red flag?
It could be a situation. So I would want to chat through it, like help me understand why you don't. And if it's just because, well, you know, life is short and I don't want to get stuck scrolling on a Sunday on my couch. Okay, I understand that. I also have a hard time.
Do you feel like that's a good enough excuse, though?
I also have a hard time believing like, so you don't ever look, like you don't have another account.
Yeah.
Like, or like you don't go on your Safari browser and pull up Instagram. Like what? You don't do anything. Like, I feel like there is maybe a little bit of a disconnect, but it wouldn't be a red flag for me. I would just want to talk through it and understand it. What about you?
For sure.
Red flag for you?
I mean, I don't think so. I actually like it if there's reasonable reasons why. I'm not mad because we're so present on there that it's nice to have someone to like balance that out. That's not, as long as they understand that it's like our life and it's part of our business and it's necessary.
Yeah.
So no, I mean, as long as it's not because they're like a felon or like a convicted, you know, your brain can go in these different places. Oftentimes I've talked to men that are just like, oh, I was in the military, or like I just was a cop. I don't know. They just don't want to have their stuff out there. You just want to make sure. I think I always like to make sure that the reason why feels authentic when they're saying it.
Yeah.
And not because they're like hiding under some different account because they're like married or, I mean,
you just never
dealt
know.
with some shit.
Well,
yeah, you just don't know.
This makes me think of Leo. Right.
Yes.
Like went on a couple dates and he told me he didn't have social media. We went on a date and he's just talking about the podcast and the videos. And I'm just like, wait a second.
But he has no social.
That's what he said.
Oh my goodness. I don't remember you saying this.
Yeah. So
how do we tie that together if he's watching the pod?
So this kind of like goes back to like, do you really not have an account? You know,
or you're just something you just use it.
You
to
just
troll.
want to have the privacy.
Yeah.
Like do what you want, but have the privacy. I also feel like because what you and I do, whether it be real estate or the podcast, like it's so much part of our life. Like I would want my person to be a part of that. Like, are you watching it? Like give me feedback, good, bad, indifferent, like whatever that is. I don't know, because it is such a part of our life.
Agree.
So.
Well, I guess they could YouTube it because we are on YouTube.
Yeah.
Full circle on that. How do you feel about someone we would date having Snapchat?
At our age, no. That's a no. I don't
Is that
even
like
know.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a huge
They ask for
red
your
flag.
snap. There are guys like I don't even know, or they have their snap on there, or they have pictures with. I'm just like, oh my goodness, like we are in our 40s. Like Snapchat should not be
a thing.
That should
or
not
like
be a
sometimes
thing.
you see like on Bumble or like Facebook dating or any of the apps, you'll see them put like the Snapchat filter, like the bunny ears, and I'm like, what
in
the
their
fuck are you
photo.
doing right
Yes,
now? Yeah,
and especially if you have your snap.
I don't
in
like
your-
that. It doesn't necessarily cause a red flag for me. It's just like that's not attractive, and I don't like that. I feel like it shows a very like immature.
Having
Is it
like
immature?
the filters on there.
Yeah, and even just being on Snap.
Oh yes, Snap to me is like 20 somethings, which leads me to think like, what are you looking for, and what
And
is
who are you
your
talking to?
emotional intelligence
Yeah.
level? Like
Yeah.
if you're on Snapchat.
Yeah.
We've all been there, but like, no.
Yeah,
I feel like that's a hard no.
That's a no.
I feel like that's actually a deal breaker for me.
yeah. What I would like to know for the guys that follow us is
Are you guys
what
on
are your
Snap?
thoughts? Are you on Snap? Let us know. But also, what are your thoughts? Like, what is going through your mind as you're following these accounts and like liking the half naked women or like the fitness models, or like, is there any emotion behind it?
And also,
is it
do you
simple,
look at
or-
your women's? Like, do men do this too? Do we just sound like
Yeah.
we're overly analytical? I think at this age, we're all kind of that way.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious to hear. But anything else we want to add on this topic?
I think that's it. Women,
Yeah.
we would like to hear from you too. Do you investigate the way we do? It's the question at hand. But I think other than that, yeah, I think it's good to just gather as much information you can around it. I think you can learn a lot about someone through
100%.
their social
Who they're
media,
following.
everything.
Yeah. 100%.
And what they're posting.
Yeah.
So
Thank you for listening. Make sure you're following us on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and tune in. Thanks so much.
thank you.